Whether it is once a year, once a decade, or once in a lifetime, many people dream of traveling to faraway places and experiencing new and exciting ways of life. But the unfortunate truth is that not all countries and cultures are equally safe and accepting when it comes to queer travel, and this can range from mild hostility all the way to imprisonment and even unaliving. Many watching today will already know that it is a good idea to avoid countries like Yemen, Iraq, Ethiopia, and Somalia as a queer person, and so we are not going to speak about such countries today, as it would be redundant and not within the scope of this video. There are well over 190 countries in the world today, and for this list of popular destinations to avoid at all costs, we are only looking at countries that are in the top 40 most visited according to the UN's most recent estimates. Saudi Arabia is in the top 40, but this is because of the Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca, so it will not be included as its tourism numbers are skewed. And, just to further clarify again so everyone is on the same page, countries like Uganda, Sudan, Nigeria, Syria, and many other terrible countries for queer people are obviously not under consideration for this video, as they do not fit the bill as a, quote, popular destination. And I want to stress that just because a country has evil laws, wicked leadership, and a generally hateful population, as measured by public opinion data, that does not mean that all people from said country are bad or share the same radical beliefs. It is my personal understanding and experience that an equal percentage of LGBTQ people are born in every country on Earth. The same percentage of Norwegians and Lebanese people will be born as queer despite opposite cultures and ways of life. This means that as we avoid supporting the 5 countries on this list, and acknowledge the evil they propagate in the world, we should never forget our queer siblings, born and living in these locations, as they simply desire the same freedom and safety that many of us often take for granted. Additionally, beyond the LGBTQ populations of these countries, there are also examples of non-queer individuals who do not share the backwards beliefs of the majority of people around them. And yes, even in places with the lowest public opinion and acceptance of queer people, they exist. This is why it is important to have the capacity to call out evil regimes, ideologies, and segments of a population, while not forgetting that good people exist everywhere, and likely feel the same way we do about the countries on this list. And on that note, here are the 5 popular destinations that should be avoided by queer travelers in 2024. And, starting our expedition today, is the ancient but ever-present country of Egypt, located at the meeting point of 2 continents with land in both Asia and Africa. And, while this is a list of countries to avoid if you care about LGBTQ safety, it's still useful to understand first just how many people visit Egypt yearly, and some of the reasons why they choose to do so. Based on data from the UN, Egypt is projected to receive 11.3 million tourists in 2024, which makes it the 36th most visited country on Earth, which is actually quite high considering there are over 190 countries. People visit Egypt for many reasons, but some of the country's largest draws are its world-renowned ancient Egyptian ruins and historical sites, its coastal resort areas boasting clear water and warm weather for much of the year, and, of course, the Nile River, which is perhaps the most famous river in the world and a bucket list destination for many. Fortunately, Egypt happens to also be one of the most hostile and dangerous countries on Earth for LGBTQ people, especially for those who do not pass as straight and cisgender. Being gay or lesbian is a de facto criminal offense in Egypt, and even promoting queer rights is punished with time in prison. Additionally, transgender individuals are only allowed to change their legal gender after surgery has been performed, and this process often includes overcoming many procedural barriers. And on top of this, trans people in Egypt face immense risk of violence, and the horror stories of what gender-diverse individuals in the country face are gut-wrenching. Equaldex currently ranks Egypt 175th out of 196 countries on their Global Equality Index, which measures both LGBTQ rights and public opinion data, highlighting the fact that Egypt is without a doubt one of the absolute worst countries on Earth for our community, and one that should be boycotted at all costs until change occurs. Ethical and safe alternative for LGBTQ people who had been interested in visiting Egypt is the island country of Cyprus. Located just north of Egypt in the eastern Mediterranean Sea is Cyprus, a country that is home to many of the same varieties of destinations as found in Egypt, such as ancient ruins that can be found in cities like Paphos, magical locations from ancient mythology like the birthplace of Aphrodite, and some of the region's most beautiful beaches. Cyprus also boasts a similar Mediterranean climate and cuisine, and incredible clean and modern coastal cities. While not perfect, Cyprus is centuries ahead of Egypt on nearly every social issue. Cyprus has legalized civil unions since 2015, has no restrictions on changing one's legal gender since 2022, and is considered to be the 53rd best country on earth for LGBTQ equality, which, out of 196 countries, is not a bad showing. Public opinion is lower than ideal, but compared to Egypt, Cyprus also excels in this too, despite there being immense room for improvement on this particular front. One important side note that I think is worth mentioning, despite being slightly outside the scope of this video, is that Cyprus is currently split between an illegal and unrecognized Islamic Turkish encampment in the north of the country and the internationally recognized Greek Cypriot-controlled south and center. The legitimate Greek Cypriot government is part of the European Union and maintains internationally recognized ownership of the northern parts of the country as well. One should be aware, then, that the positive laws mentioned earlier apply only to those areas under the control of the legitimate government, and that safety cannot be guaranteed to those who venture into the northern Turkish-occupied regions. Thankfully, there are currently no active hostilities between the two sides, and visiting Cyprus is easy and safe, despite the country being de facto split in two. As someone who has recently spent 2 months in Cyprus and multiple cities along the southern coast, I can highly recommend it as a queer-friendly, fun, and safe alternative to the dangers of visiting Egypt as an LGBTQ person. Moving west now across nearly the entirety of North Africa, we arrive in Morocco, a country that has become a highly popular tourist destination despite being intensely anti-LGBTQ and immensely socially backwards. The latest data from the UN estimates that in 2024, Morocco is projected to receive 12.9 million tourists, the 33rd most of any country on Earth, and ahead of other popular destinations like Switzerland, South Africa, and Australia. People who are not aware, or simply do not care about the persecution of queer people in Morocco, enjoy visiting for a variety of reasons, ranging from the country's Instagrammable architecture and unique cityscapes, its traditional and much applauded cuisine, and its relatively affordable beach destinations along its Mediterranean coast, just to name a handful of draws that Morocco has on tourists. But despite these very valid reasons for interest in the country, as of 2024, Morocco is still a place where state-sponsored persecution of our community is rampant, and where the hostility against LGBTQ people and rights is palpable. Being gay or lesbian in Morocco is punished with between 6 months and 3 years in prison, and it is completely illegal to change one's gender in the country under any circumstances. Additionally, a 2022 poll from the World Values Survey found that only 6.08% of Moroccan respondents thought that homosexuality was justifiable, one of the worst rates in the world. Hopefully in time, Morocco will socially develop and begin respecting human rights, but until then there are nearby alternative destinations that are home to many similar substitutes to the draws enticing visitors to Morocco. Portugal, for example, is less than 100 kilometers away from the northern coast of Morocco, boasts a similar climate with gorgeous beaches, incredible seafood, which is honestly just a small part of its delicious cuisine, and has many architectural marvels, ranging from those inspired by North Africa to Renaissance Christianity, in addition to being home to many delightful cityscapes that merge different stylistic and cultural influences together seamlessly. The primary reason why Portugal is a superior option to Morocco is the fact that Portugal is one of the best countries in the world for LGBTQ people. Marriage equality was achieved in the country back in 2010, and since 2018, transgender individuals have been able to change their legal gender without restrictions. So, despite being less than 100 kilometers away from Morocco, the level of social development and respect for human rights could not be more stark, and makes Portugal a far superior, safer, and more ethical destination. The next frequently visited country to be avoided is one that perhaps is better known by the name of its largest city, Dubai, than by its actual name. We are of course talking about the United Arab Emirates. The UAE is famous for having the current tallest skyscraper in the world, for its futuristic capital city of Abu Dhabi, and for its absolutely grotesque levels of LGBTQ persecution. And here's the thing, all the obscene wealth, tall buildings, and overpriced food in the world cannot cover up the stench of a primitive society that refuses to respect basic human rights. Despite this fact, according to UN data, the UAE is projected to receive 16.7 million visitors in 2024, the 26th most in the world. many people visit the UAE to enjoy its fancy and upscale lifestyle, surrounded by modern high-rises and architectural marvels designed by Europeans and built with dirty oil money. But the draw of luxury malls, amusement parks inside of luxury malls, along with the many opportunities for excursions in this country that has been quite literally designed with the primary goal of attracting as many tourists as possible, is apparently just too much for many people to resist. But here is why they should resist anyway. Being caught as gay or lesbian in the UAE results in prison sentences that range up to life in prison if you are lucky, but unaliving, flogging, chemical castration, and many other atrocities are possible punishments under the country's primitive Islamic Sharia law. Changing one's legal gender is also illegal in the country in all cases, and all gender-affirming care is banned. Additionally, even advocating for LGBTQ people to exist freely and safely is punishable with prison time. For these reasons, and countless others, visiting the UAE is extremely dangerous as an LGBTQ individual, and simply because some straight and cis-passing influencers, who have been paid by the Emirati government to say otherwise and try to distract from the reality on the ground, it does not change the fact that the UAE is a barbaric country that actively targets our community, and for this reason, the country should be boycotted completely until things change. For those deeply interested in experiencing luxury shopping in the shadow of futuristic skyscrapers without supporting pure evil in the process, consider visiting Singapore instead. Singapore has recently become a far more accepting and safe destination for queer people, as ever since 2022, homosexuality has been legal. Gender-affirming care is also legal, and in 2024, an Ipsos poll found that only 15% of Singaporean respondents disagreed with LGBTQ people being open about their sexual and gender identities. In just a few short years, Singapore has gone from a relatively hostile country for our community to one of the most free and safe in Asia. So, for those who had been interested in visiting the UAE, Singapore is a far superior and more ethical destination that also boasts many of the same draws, all without the guilty conscience or risk of prison time. Move now to a country that is just north of Singapore by about a kilometer, but unfortunately could not be more opposite in terms of LGBTQ rights and safety. In 2024, the UN projects that Malaysia will receive a whopping 26.1 million visitors, ranking it 14th globally. Malaysia has a wide range of draws, such as its tropical beaches, delicious fruit and traditional cuisine, and many interesting coastal cities and resort areas. Additionally, the country's capital, Kuala Lumpur, is a major draw for tourists and frequently praised for being a friendly, affordable, and up-and-coming new destination to explore. All of this is true, unless you are LGBTQ, as being caught as gay or lesbian in Malaysia results in lengthy prison sentences up to 20 years, and gender-affirming care in the country is restricted, with the legality of changing one's legal gender being currently ambiguous. In 2024, one of Malaysia's most read newspapers published an article explaining to readers how to identify gay men and lesbians in order to turn them over to the authorities, and in 2023, the government announced that wearing a pride-themed Swatch watch would lead to 3 years in prison. For those who want to experience the beauty of Southeast Asia without supporting a wicked society that opposes our community's right to exist, Thailand is an incredible option that boasts an almost identical climate, selection of tropical fruits, beaches, and wildlife, and is home to the absolutely stunning city of Bangkok, a city that has emerged as one of the world's most open and vibrant queer capitals. Marriage equality was passed by the Thai government this summer, and once the king signs the bill into law any day now, the bill will go into effect after 120 days from that point, meaning that Thailand will soon become the second country in Asia after Taiwan to have achieved marriage equality. Gender-affirming care is readily accessible in Thailand, and changing one's legal gender is also expected to be possible by the end of the year. For all of these reasons and more, Thailand is the perfect substitute for those interested in visiting Malaysia, as Thailand quickly establishes itself as not only a regional, but even a global leader in the fight for LGBTQ equality and safety. Now, before we dive into the final country on our list today, I just want to invite you personally to become a member of the Queer Kingdom and to join our quickly growing community. You can officially join the kingdom here on YouTube for $1 a month, which will eventually help me make this channel my full-time focus. You will also get access to some cute custom queer emojis and epic crown icons next to your comments on this channel that change and evolve the longer you are a member. Check the comments down below and see if you can spot any existing members and their crowns. was definitely fun to design, and I hope you like them. Also, while monthly live streams are always public, they are eventually moved to the members-only feed afterwards, and controversial videos covering heavy subjects that are not quite YouTube-friendly are also privately posted for citizens of the kingdom so that we can all stay informed. And, finally, joining the Queer Kingdom here on YouTube gives you the ability to chat with me and fellow members through access to our new Queer Kingdom members Discord. I greatly look forward to meeting you and working together to create a safe and prosperous world for our people, one step at a time. And finally, the most popular country that should be avoided by LGBTQ people in 2024, and for the foreseeable future for that matter, is none other than Turkey. And no, I will not call it Turkey until Turkey first starts to respect queer people's right to exist freely and safely without censorship and harassment at every turn. With a projected 51.2 million visitors in 2024, Turkey is the 6th most visited country on Earth, making it the most popular country in the world to be avoided by our community, despite it having many legitimate draws that make it an enticing destination. Turkish food is widely agreed to be one of the greatest in the world. Many of its coastal cities, like Izmir, are famous for their affordability, beautiful beaches, and a more progressive society than the rest of the country. And one cannot fail to mention the multitude of ancient historical locations dating back thousands of years. But despite there being many reasons why one may be interested in visiting Turkey, at this time in history, the country is actively targeting our community and sponsoring violence at levels not seen in decades, if not centuries in the country. And while it is technically legal to be gay or lesbian in Turkey, anything related to LGBTQ rights is strictly prohibited. This includes pride parades, clothing, and even advocating for LGBTQ rights. Changing one's legal gender is possible in the country only with surgery, and the government systematically ignores the unaliving of trans people in the country to a shocking degree. It is not uncommon for those who do not pass as straight and cisgender to be targeted by police and by rogue religious fanatics, especially in the center and eastern regions of the country. And so, despite Turkey not being nearly as hostile as many of its neighbors, it is nevertheless a destination that is best avoided for LGBTQ people who want to travel ethically and avoid supporting a government and system that persecutes us for daring to exist. If you spend any amount of time online, you will notice that Turkey has many apologists who try to defend its abysmal record on LGBTQ rights and beyond, but their arguments are always the same, so let me make something crystal clear. If you are a cisgender straight-passing rich person living in an Istanbul high-rise, obviously your experience is going to be fine. But for queer minorities and those who do not pass as cisgender and straight, the experience is not only vastly different, but truly unbearable. Just because a random mask-for-mask person with daddy's money denies the abuses Turkey commits every day against our community does not erase the reality that queer people in the country face every day, a bleak reality that gets worse every day that the radical religious fanatic and authoritarian tyrant Erdogan stays in power. For those interested in a similar experience to that found in Turkey, consider its far superior neighbor Greece. Greece is also famous for its delicious Mediterranean cuisine, countless ancient historical sites to explore, and gorgeous cityscapes, beaches, and wildlife. In early 2024, Greece achieved marriage equality, making it the first Christian Orthodox country on Earth to reach this important developmental milestone. Gender-affirming care and changing one's legal gender are also accessible in the country, and Greece is without a doubt the best option for queer travelers who do not want to support the evil regime in Turkey, but rather to enjoy a peaceful and safe visit to an Eastern Mediterranean country that respects human rights and our personal right to exist openly and without fear. Now, for our weekly queer news update, we have some exciting news out of the Paris Olympics, where a record 195 LGBTQ athletes are competing, a rise of nearly 10 compared to the last Summer Olympics in Tokyo, and marking the second Olympics in history where there are over 100 out athletes. Also, if Team LGBTQ were a country, we would currently be tied with Italy as the 7th in the world by Olympic medal count as of August 9th, higher than large and competitive countries like Germany, South Korea, Brazil, Canada, and the Netherlands. Interestingly, at the last Olympics in Tokyo, Team LGBTQ finished 7th place, so it'll be exciting to see if this year, or in 4 years at the Los Angeles 2028 Olympics, we can move to 6th or even higher overall. Regardless, Team LGBTQ is representing our community admirably and making history in the process. The representation these athletes are serving inspires people across the world from all backgrounds and ages, and is a unique opportunity for people in heavily censored and socially backwards countries to be exposed to the fact that LGBTQ people exist everywhere, and are equally entitled to exist openly and freely on this planet we all call home. Thank you, friends, for watching and spending time today with me as we seek to spread the word about important topics in the community. For those interested, you are more than welcome to stay around and join our increasingly powerful kingdom here on YouTube as we fight for our future. Until next time, QK out.